I think you should spend like 70% of your time, and we call it your unconscious competence, 30% of your time in things that take effort, which for you and I are very similar, like actually having to sit down and care for people without, though, being able to solve their problem. Not that we sit down and have to care, because we do care, but actually going, oh, I don't get to say anything.
When I was executive pastor, I'd look at my team and they'd start to tell me, somebody in the church and their problems and whatever. And I'd be like, look, I don't care about the details. Just like, are you handling it? Do you need anything?
Yes.
And then later I was like, I actually do care. God's put me in this position as executive pastor, and I have people come up and go, oh, you're such a great pastor. I love your heart and blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, well, that's definitely the anointing, because that's not me at my core hardwiring. Welcome to a Leader's Journey podcast. I'm your host, Joel Gunn. Today, I have Aaron Phillips with me. He's the president of the Christian Chamber of Commerce of San Antonio.
Yep.
You do a lot of other things, but one of the things we were talking before the show, actually, the show started unofficially, we were talking about 5 voices, which is one of the tools in your toolbox that you use to help coach folks and lead folks. For those that are unfamiliar, what is 5 voices and what excites you about it?
Yeah, so 5 voices is, we use the term voice just because of how we're represented, right? Like when we talk, people hear our voice and they know it. And so they're like, oh, okay, after you're around somebody for long enough, you can hear their voice and pick them out of the room, right? So whether it's like your son coming in or your wife or whatever, you're like, oh, hey, I know their voice. People you've worked with before, you know that, oh, hey, that's Tommy or that's Billy or so on and so forth, right? You can just kind of know their voice. So it kind of took that where it says voice, but it's talking about your personality and how you're experienced is really what it is. It's a lot of self-awareness. With it, I use it to focus on like the 5 areas of leadership and leadership development, working with teams, things like that. And it's communication, relationships, execution, alignment and capacity. And those, all leadership issues stem from those 5 areas. And so with the 5 voices, we're able to really figure out like, hey, like what's the missing voice on our team? What is it? How do we appreciate, what's really tough is how you and I were talking, like we're both pioneers. And so, which make up 7% of the population. And how you had just gave a great story about like being an executive pastor and everybody was like, oh my gosh, like that's so great. And you're like, man, that is the anointing of God, because that was tough. Well, pioneers, believe it or not, even though they make up 7% of the population, they make up 50% of boardrooms. So part of that is just their drive. They just have a different gear a lot of times, but they always fall on like one end of the spectrum. They're never like, oh, they're all right. Like they're either, hey, you're amazing. Like, yo, I loved working with you and for you. And they're on this side where like, that was the worst person. Like they are absolutely terrible people. I don't know how they sleep at night, like so on and so forth. Like the list goes down, right? And so, but we call that the pioneers, like they are the loudest voice. They're the ones who, in just a brief moment where we call it intentional versus accidental. And so we're at a brief moment when we become accidental, we can do a lot of damage in a room because we're the only ones that God made walking around with body armor on all the time. And we thought that was just regular life. Like, oh yeah, like, no, like somebody said something to you and I'm sure, your wife or somebody would be like,
she's always like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
It's like, I was like, what? I didn't say it. Everybody was thinking it. And they're like, I don't know about that. I don't know. Right. But then when it comes to problem solving and strategic vision, they look and people look and they go, oh my goodness, that is incredible. And if you really dive deep into it too, you can see a lot of Romans 12 in it, which is really exciting.
Unpack that for a sec.
Okay. So in Romans 12, we have the different level of the gifts, right? So you have your, so you have your 12 fruits of the Spirit, you have your 12 gifts of the Spirit, and then you have your other 5 gifts to the body. Well, then where does Romans 12 fit in? So we find like, oh, hey, to some are given like the gift of zeal. Well, the gift of zeal isn't one of the 12 gifts of the Spirit, but it is a gift given to the body, gift of hospitality. It's not over here. And so not over there. I heard a message one time and it talked about, the dove that descended upon Jesus. And, so one of those is and one of the ways they outlined it was, you had 12 main feathers on each side and 5 tail feathers. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't know how accurate that is, but I think that was one of those of just like, hey, I'm going to grab this and it's going to sound cool and it's a good visual, right?
Sure.
So I'm like, hey, we're going to go with it. And so, but in Romans 12, you get past, hey, if my memory serves me correctly, your body being a living sacrifice, and then holy and acceptable to God, and then living out, and then it goes into what I would kind of deem as, I think there's some personality traits there that God goes, a lot of times we look at these and, oh, this is something we have to change or we have to adapt or whatever it may be, and we sometimes think that. And I think one of the great power of the 5 voices and working with my clients that I've seen is once people get really comfortable in how God wired them, massive success starts to happen. It's almost like this is who God was destining you to be, that you're really living out that purpose. Philippians 2:13, that it's God inside of you, giving you motivation and determination to achieve his purpose for your life. And I think right there in Romans 12, we just kind of overlook a lot of those giftings, and I can't think of them
Gift
all.
of administration as one.
Yes, right? Absolutely, right? But that's not one of the 12. So you have administration, but think about this, like when it comes to like working with a team or a business, and you had said, y'all had, you were talking earlier about using Myers-Briggs, and it just opened up a whole nother level because you're like, oh, hey, we need to bring these people in, this or that. And I remember I was talking with someone and they were using a different one. They were using a color system, which I think is a disc system, but I could be wrong.
Sounds right.
And they're like, oh, well, we don't hire any reds on our team. And I was like, oh, interesting. And so I didn't know much about it. So I started reading a book. And so, ironically enough, the book is called Surrounded by Idiots. And so, so I was like, oh, okay. And which is really funny because I think so many times when we look at people, we don't value how God made them, how God wired them, the gifts that God has put inside of them. We look at that and kind of get the herd mentality of going, well, you're not like me. And since you're not like me, we can't gel well. The chemistry's not there. The chemistry's not going to be there. Well, one of the things that we talk about, and I talk about utilizing the 5 voices, is when you can have everyone from different voices using all 5, which is the nurturer, the creative, the guardian, the connector, and the pioneer. You really are bringing everyone together, and you get to see all sides of the mountain. And there is opportunity on all sides of the mountain. In climbing the mountain, sometimes our way is not going to be, actually, let me say it this way. As pioneers, like our way is definitely not the easiest because we love the challenge. Like if, to fire you up, it would just be like, someone just has to come up to you and probably be like, I don't think you could do that. And you're like, we'll see.
Yeah.
Like I didn't need any extra motivation. Like I was actually not even going to take this challenge or this opportunity, but you just decided to come by and tell me that I couldn't. So now I've just got a little bit extra energy, but in knowing those, and I think that's that part of that, like that gift of zeal, where it's like, hey, why are you just excited about this and pointing this in whichever direction? Well, what happens when you get that gift of zeal, but then you can partner it with someone who has like the gift of administration and then go, hey, you take off running and I'll handle the details behind you. And then together we can accomplish so much more.
And you look at a lot of the most successful businesses, for lack of a better term, organizations in general, usually there's that pioneer type that's paired with somebody that's really strong in administration.
Yeah.
Right. And so Disney was the creative, but it was his brother that actually made the business work. Right. Bill Gates was the forefront, but it was his number 2 that really executed on a lot of the details. And they say that's true of almost all the successful people. You look at their number 2, we say that about couples, right?
Yeah.
Behind every successful man's awesome wife, so I think there's a lot of truth to that. You said something just before we got on the air about maturity, especially for some of the voices.
Oh, man.
Particularly the guardian. And I thought it was interesting. You actually used an age that Abraham Lincoln also used.
Okay, so it was the pioneer. So it's both of us, and so I'm still, transparently, I'm still not 40. So, which is like that frustration point.
Transparently, I'm barely over it.
I believe it. I knew it. Yeah, and so, and that's but it's with the pioneers. So pioneers, normally maturity is more difficult for us. Now, one of the things about the five voices is we're all five voices. So we have a foundational voice, which the other four expressed through. But from that foundational voice, then, is expressed how secondary voice, yours was the guardian, which means you're great at systems. You can understand it. I think you're Six Sigma, black belt, right? Mm-hmm. So those things probably came really easy to you, which God bless you for that. Mm-hmm. So whereas for me, I just get super bored with them, and I'm like, no, like, I bet there's a person we can find to do this, mm-hmm. right? And mm-hmm. so, being a pioneer connector. So we're all five, but each one is expressed differently. However, like you said, Abraham Lincoln, I didn't know that he had said 40, but it is one of those where pioneers are normally extremely driven people. And because of that, I'm sure you can look back and go, oh yeah, that's when that made sense. That was like, it was no longer about me winning or telling the truth or letting someone know or inform them of something. It was about all of us accomplishing the goal together. So that's one of those where it says, normally, that's what I said, normally about 40. And I think that's because it takes some time, probably 0 to 35. I think because to build anything great, it takes time. Mm-hmm. And so at about that time, people look and go, oh, okay. So this is what you were trying to do. Well, why didn't you say so earlier? Yeah,
for me, because I tend to be task oriented and less people focused, growing up, it was very easy for me to lead and get tasks done, but didn't have a lot of deep relationships, or even people, they'd be like, okay, well, if we got to get something done, we're on Joel's team, we're going to get it done. But, there was no hanging out on the weekend or, that kind of, so
we're going to be on your team because we know we're going to win.
Right. So thankfully, the Myers-Briggs in my mid-20s, whenever I was exposed to Myers-Briggs in a corporate setting, started to help me realize there's other ways to get things done. Being married to my opposite, right?
That's
started
cool.
to appreciate my wife's gifts and how she's wired. And it was funny. We would... little tangent here, little personal story. You've seen some of these jewel games where you got to get 3 jewels and and some late night, we would both, I think this was after kids. So we put the kids to bed, maybe do some things, talk about some things, whatever, maybe watch a little bit of TV. But there was a short season where we pull up a jewel game on the screen and we just both pull up to the computer because there weren't really tablets around. Dating myself a little bit. And she'd be like, oh, right there. And I'd be like, where? I literally did not see it.
Uh-huh.
And then I'd see something she didn't see. And so I'm going through this Myers-Briggs stuff and all this. And I'm realizing like, she really can see things I can't see. It's the same puzzle in front of both of us. And yet I can see things she can't see and she can see. And so it was little things I started to notice in life that in corporate life, for example, I talked about how Myers-Briggs really changed my perception and it positively influenced the culture. But I had 2 best friends. One was a serious introvert, which means not that he can stand up in front of a room and make a presentation,
right.
But he recharges.
Yes, that's always a big thing. People are like, "Oh, I'm introverted," and so, or I'm extroverted. I'm like, I don't think you really know what that means. Like, you can be an extrovert and go out somewhere and not want to be there.
Yeah,
like, and just go like, "Hey, like, I'm not going to talk to anybody today." That doesn't mean you're less of an extrovert. Just
so he was so introverted. We're during the Myers-Briggs week that we're being exposed to this at an executive level and really going into detail on how to build teams around it, all that kind of stuff. We'd have a break and he'd disappear off. That time he smoked. And I'd be like, hey, where'd he go? And I'd ask around. They're like, I don't know, he disappeared. So break would be over and he'd show up and he'd participate and, contribute to the room. And then during break, he'd disappear. Finally, I'm like, dude, what's going on? He's like, oh, I'm just slipping out for a smoke break. So now I'm looking for him, at one of the breaks because I'm an extrovert and he's my friend. Mm-hmm. And I don't want him being by himself. I don't want him being alone.
Right.
Right. So I go over, hey, what's going on? What do you think of the class? Blah, 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 blah. He go back in. Well, halfway through the week, I figure out he's an introvert. I've been ruining his time to recharge. But because we're friends, he's just enduring it because he knows, I like to interact with people and process stuff out loud. And so he's enduring it. And I'm actually doing a disservice to my friend.
Yeah.
And so in that same season, I'd get up from my office when I had an idea or needed a change of pace. I'd go down to his office. He'd be typing away in the middle of something really focused. I'd be like, hey, what's going on? He'd be like, I was like, you up to something? You got a minute? And finally he'd break his concentration. Like, what's going on? Yes, what? And I'd be like, well, nothing. I mean, I just came to say hi, see what you're up to. What's going on? And he's like, sorry, I'm just working on something, And I'd be like, oh, okay. And we'd chat for a couple minutes. And then I'd go back to work and I'm energized and ready to go because I got a little, interaction and find out later it takes him 10 to 20 minutes to fully re-engage with what he was focused on.
Wow.
Well, another friend of mine, engineer, was way more extroverted than me. So his office was further, but once I realized this dynamic, I'd get up from my office. I need a break. I need to recharge by interacting with people.
Right.
I go find him and interrupt him. He took it as a compliment. Hey, somebody cares about me. I'm an extrovert.
Absolutely.
We could talk for a few minutes. I'd walk away. He'd be all jazzed up. I'd be refilled. And we left our introvert friend alone, get his work done. Then we go to lunch together. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was little things like that I started to see and actually started to understand. There was a guy named Ralph. I don't know if Ralph's still with us. He was quite a bit older than I was. And he was the ultimate pessimist. He was really good at it. He could shoot any idea down with eloquence, with detail, with reasons why this isn't going to work. And it was almost irrefutable. Like, wow. I mean, the guy was expert pessimist. And so I'd put him on my teams. People are like, oh, why'd you put him on the team? I was like, because we need him in the room.
Yeah.
Because if I can get him to neutral, we got a great idea.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I'm not trying to win him over to positive. If I can just get him to neutral, we got a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
This is going to work.
Yeah. If you could get him to the point where it's like, well, like you could do this, this, and this, and it would work, but like that's a long shot. You're like, guys, I think we're onto something.
If I could get, his name was Ralph. If I could get Ralph to neutral, we got a winner. Like, and stuff that we did 30 years ago, some of those things are still in place. Wow. Because Ralph was in the room.
Yeah.
Right. And we really figured it out and he made us work for the answers. Because there are some personality types that'll just be like, whatever. Yep. I'm in. I vote. Yes. Good. Approved. Yeah. Let's go party. And
you do have those voices that are conflict adverse. Actually, the nurture, which is 43% of the population, can be that. And so if you think about that as how many people are just, and they're like, okay, yeah, let's do that. Hey, yeah, we're just going to do whatever you think. Like, I don't want, and so, but they're also the ones that we call them the oil inside, like they're the oil in the engine that moves the organization. Mm-hmm. They're the one that keeps unnecessary conflict from happening and kind of just smooth things over. Sometimes when things get too rigid, they're the ones who, they're the medic. They're the ones that their superpower is empathy. They could just walk in somewhere and they just immediately know the vibes of the room, if you will, using some younger language there, but like just the vibes of the room where it's like, oh, okay. They're the ones that can walk in and just instinctively know, oh man, they need a cup of coffee. I bet something's going on in their life. Right. And so those to where like someone like you or I, which we call that our nemesis voice, because it's all the way on the other side of the spectrum, we're like, I didn't see any of that. Didn't even know that was a thing.
Or even if I saw it, didn't really care. I mean, like that. And I told you, as we were getting ready to put this episode together, I said I was using this phrase, I don't care, as in I don't care about the details. Let's get to that's your job. Give me the headlines. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And I realized after saying that, several times over several months, I had to stop and almost apologize to my team and say, I wouldn't be here if I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
In my core, I care. That's why I'm here. So I'm going to work at stop using that phrase, I don't care, because that's not what I'm trying to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking is the way I'm wired. You're busy, I'm busy. Let me know you've got the situation at hand, and that you're taking care of everything, and I trust you. So if you're caring, that's not how I'm wired. That is how you're wired. That's not how I'm gifted. That is your role. And so if you're taking good care of things, then I don't care.
Yeah. What we think we're saying is you're empowered to do that.
Right.
And what the other 93% of the population hears what you just said.
I don't care.
Yeah.
He doesn't love me. He doesn't love people. He doesn't care about people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's some too, like the connectors, like they always take all their ideas as like challenged. So if you challenge their idea, like they take it very personal because they are the best storytellers. They're highly relational people. Like they don't compartmentalize at all. They're really, really cool. We call them the champions of effective communication. Mm-hmm. They're great at rallying everyone and getting them all kind of heading in the right direction. But like everything that has a superpower, like has a kryptonite. And so those people like, you're like, hey, I got this great idea. Like, what do you think, Joel? And you're just like, cool, I don't care. And they're like, well, which one? Is it cool or you don't care? And so we look at that and they're like, hang on, let me run that back. And what you're saying is cool. I've empowered you to do it. Go for it. And so, and as we kind of move through that and we look at it, we go, oh, so for them, it's also being taking the time to listen and to understand and go, oh, I'm good at this. They're also, I'm okay with going out and making this connection, telling this story, pursuing this sales. And one of the things that connectors are one of the best at is inside of an organization, it's making sure the team celebrates wins. Mm. Too many times organizations look and they just go on to the next one. But a connector will go, hey, did anybody see what we did? Did anybody really see? And so, and it's like, yeah, like it was fine. Like, no, like, hey, this is big time. This is great. We actually closed this deal. We actually, we got this done on time. Hey, we saved $3 million in this, like whatever it is. Like a connector will make sure that you celebrate it if they're empowered to do so. And that's always the big thing there, is that you can really maximize each voice, but are you empowering them to be themselves? To be
in a way that they recognize that they're empowered. Right?
Absolutely.
Because I empower a lot of people and they're like, did he just shove extra work on me? If I'm not careful how I communicate it, it can come across as I've just given them extra work to do. And I'm like, no, I mean, why would you not want this? I'm empowering you.
Right. And then you have some people who they're, oh man, that's amazing. But there's a great book. And I don't know necessarily 100% know if there's any correlation, but it's we've all heard of the 5 love languages. Mm-hmm. Well, there's the 5 languages of appreciation. Mm. And so I was actually really surprised at how good it was. But it was like, okay, so who is that person how do you do physical touch in the workplace, right? Like, whoa, hang on now, time out. But a lot of that is like, there's always someone who they run around and they always want a high five. They always want something, like they're excited. They've, just closed something, on sales or whatever it may be. And they want to come by and, they want to dap you up right there. You're like, oh, I can't believe we did this. Let's go. They create that sport-like atmosphere. Mm-hmm. There it is, right? And sometimes that's all people need. I remember I was talking with someone and they're like, man, how do we inspire and show our people that we appreciate them other than just giving them more money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, believe it or not, most people don't just want more money. They really want, sometimes it's having a one-to-one
Mm-hmm.
where it's being present with them and hearing them go, hey, and most nurturers, 43% of the population, they want to know that they're heard.
Mm.
Guardians want to know that their work is valued. Creatives want to walk out an idea with you about this grand world domination that they have going on in their mind, or some future idea or invention that can really save. I have a client, he's a creative, and we, as we were talking, he was like, man, in knowing that creatives act as your early radar, both for good and bad. So they can kind of see a threat before it comes in. They can also tend to see an opportunity before it shows up. And he was saying, we were doing this exercise where it's like, all right, let's all build a team in one of my masterminds. Let's all build a team from each person's industry. So we're building a team. Who do you need where? Who do you need this? Where do you need this? And we had a lady there. She's an attorney, and she immediately had everybody where they needed to go. And ironically enough, so creatives are also people of enormous integrity. And she said, you would actually do, she said, if I had to build a law firm, I would have you only doing family law. And she said, because you have to really care about the people, and you have to be able to spot all the warning signs. There's so many from whatever it is. She said, there's just so many. She said, pioneers, you send pioneers to the massive litigation where you need to win. And that's all that there is. There's no feelings involved. There's no nothing. I need you to go win. But the creatives they have such a deep sense of, because people can be difficult for them, they have such a deep sense of care and care for the future. So they really, really focus and like hone in on that organizational integrity part. Now they can also, we all have our downfalls. And so, they can either be really sharp, and sometimes they can berate somebody from their emotional, basically emotional superiority. So, and all creatives are introverts, but not all introverts are creative. So as you were talking about your buddy who was an introvert, right? Like, so in those, it's like, oh, well, he may have been a creative that was just so far seeing that, like you said, him getting in and just getting to work on something was one of those. But the creative that I was talking about in my story, he has his MBA, and he was like, wait, why wouldn't you put me on something else? Why would you put me on family? Like, I'm a business guy. And it was just how he was wired. And talking with a guy, his level of moral thought is extremely high. He has just very unique outlooks on things, that to where, how you had said, Ralph, was that his name? He could just tear down your idea. For him, and talking with him, was like, well, hey, like what's like, what about this, what about that? Just opportunities to make money, this or that. And he would look and just be able to go, no, and here's why I wouldn't do that, and here's why I wouldn't do that based upon this scripture and that scripture, and just his understanding of the Word of God. And I went to seminary, and so I know enough to be dangerous. And so in hearing him, I was like, I don't agree with you, but you have a point. Like, I don't know that I would want to debate that with you, but those creatives having that sense of organizational integrity was something that is, and whereas other voices may not have that as much.
So a lot of our audience are leaders or aspiring leaders. How do they, hearing this conversation, how do they kind of assess themselves and their team, maybe without going through one of your surveys, or maybe they've not been exposed to Myers-Briggs or Culture Index or one of these other, DISC, one of the other tools that are out there? What's an easy way for them just to kind of look around and go, man, am I surrounding myself with a lot of people like me?
Find out how many people tell you no.
Okay.
I think that's always like a really, really good thing. How many people are actually challenging you? Are you stagnant? I've heard some people say like, oh man, this is such a tough economy. There's also a lot of opportunity, a lot of opportunity. And are you stagnant? Have you surrounded yourself with yes people and didn't know it? You may not have, and there's a lot that goes into that, right? Like, there's some culture things, not just, personality and things like that. But if you find that one of my best friends, come to find out, is a pioneer guardian as well, which I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because we would get on the phone sometimes and we would talk for a long period of time. And all we're talking about are problems, like, and solving problems and this or that, right? And we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe other people don't think like this. Oh, blah, 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 so and so on and so forth. And it's like, if you hear that, I can't believe people don't think like this, or why would someone do that? And that's in your circles pretty regularly. You've probably surrounded people with like yourself. And there's a saying, birds of a feather flock together,
sure.
Right? And so, but those are like ones that like always stand out to me. If you're saying or you're hearing, well, I don't, I just don't see how someone could, you don't see, they don't see, I don't see, you don't see, we don't see. We probably have a group of people where we're only hearing or seeing one side of the mountain. And sometimes the journey told us to go left, but we're just going to stay there till the road clears. And I think that's a dangerous place, because I don't see how, right, anybody could get past this barrier, or I don't see a way through those things. I think those are times where it's like, okay, maybe I have gone too far in making sure that my circle stays really, really small.
Too homogenous, yeah. Yeah. Any, we got to bring this session to a close. Any parting thoughts?
I don't have, appreciate those people that are different around you. One of the things that has helped me out a ton is in seeing how the five voices works, and seeing how God wired people. The more that you can appreciate other people, the more that you're really going to see His will unfold in your life. Because otherwise we just see our way of doing things and we miss out on just key revelations. One plants, one waters, God brings the increase. And I think sometimes we look like, no, I plant, I water, and then God brings me the honor. And so we look, not quite right.
Of course the praise should come to me. I did all the work.
Yeah. And so, but it's really one of those of going, man, when we can really learn to value the people that are around us, when we can really, if you want to say, we talked a little bit about Seed 12 before, if you can, and really it's the concept of, this was one of the things I had told Joe Carroll from BLE, is because I came from ministry, so wanted to be in ministry my whole life, and then I finally was in full-time ministry. I was bivocational, then finally I was in full-time ministry, and one of the things that was really weird to me was getting out and then back into just the marketplace, was how many people just separate their work and their faith. It's just really, really weird to me. It's still really weird. Don't quite understand it. But if God's given you a dream, God's given you a vision, God's given you responsibility, God's entrusted you with authority, God's helped your business succeed, He's helped your business win to where you're leading people. Are you pastoring and leading them well? It's a really big thing. But if you're not valuing how God made them, if you're not valuing their voice, I think there's a conversation to be had as being the leader and going, God, okay, what do I need to do? Because if you break down the hours, you're going to have a greater voice in their life than anyone else will for the next 1 to 25 years. So are we getting the best we can out of people? And in that, and getting the best, are we allowing them to fulfill their God-given destiny and purpose?
Are we putting the best we can into people?
And in putting the best we can into people, we'll get God's best out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Aaron, thanks so much. I enjoyed this.
Hey, thank you.
Love to have you back sometime.
Yeah. Let me know anytime. I'd love to put it on the calendar and we'll do it again.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of A Leader's Journey podcast. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel.